Again, we're just really excited to have each of you with us today. This is one of 3 sessions that we'll be hosting this week, and we'll be sure to make sure that you get everything that you need after this session concludes, or after all of our sessions conclude. So again, my name is Michelle Howard, and I serve as the Scholarship Manager for Chicago Public Schools. Very excited to have you all on the line with us, or in the chat, or in the video with us. I serve as a scholarship manager for Chicago Public Schools, and what we will be doing today is we want to call it like an in-depth information session as it relates to the Gates Scholarship. One of the things that's important to recognize about the Gates, and we'll walk through everything. Yes, this call is going to be recorded. One of the things that's important to recognize as we walk through this is that right now we've identified students who are academically eligible for this scholarship, but the financial component is really important, so we'll be going through that. I want to give you an overview of our agenda. Again, we know that this is going to be a 90-minute session, so we hope to be engaging for the entire 90 minutes. There's a lot for us to cover. Again, my name is Michelle Howard, and I'm going to be the key contact for this scholarship for Chicago Public School students. We'll also have Ms. Carly Oishi, who's going to be doing the understanding the financial eligibility for the Gates Scholarship, because again, you have to be academically and financially eligible for this scholarship. I'll be then going through the Gates Scholarship overview. Then we have a great treat. We'll have insight from the class of 2020 Gates winner, who has provided a video for us because he's currently working. We'll also have a presentation by the DePaul Center for Access and Attainment, because we know that what's really big with this scholarship is the writing component. And so we want to make sure that we give you the resources that are necessary for you to provide a competitive application. And then we'll have question and answer at the end. We're anticipating about 10 to 15 minutes for questions and answers. But again, we want to make sure that we answer all of your questions. So please continue to put your questions in the chat, and we will come back to them. So now I want to go ahead and turn the screen over to Carly Oishi, who is with the Ladder Up organization, which again is one of our partners that helps with financial aid support. And she's going to talk a bit about the FAFSA forecaster, which we've provided to you in the invitation link to ensure that your family is financially eligible for this scholarship. Carly?
Hi all, good afternoon. I'm really happy to be here to participate again in this presentation about Gates. So just a little bit about me. My name is Carly Oishi. I'm the Director of Financial Capability at Ladder Up. We're an organization that helps clients complete their taxes for free. We also have a financial literacy program that helps people with budgeting, credit, and then of course our financial aid program, which goes over the FAFSA, student award letters, student loans, college finances. So today I'm going to do a really brief overview of the FAFSA and give you some tools on how you can get a little bit ahead of the process. So first I'm going to just kind of blaze through this presentation really quick. So the FAFSA opens up on October 1st. That is the soonest that you can do the FAFSA. So the application for this year is still up, but you cannot get to the 21-22 application until October 1st. So that's really important to remember. Something that you can do though right now is secure an FSA ID and password. So that is, oh, this is like, sorry. Okay, so the FSA ID and password is the way to sign and submit your FAFSA. You do have to have a social security number in order to do that. So you'll go to the fsaid.ed.gov website and sign up for that. There are some caveats to that. So as a parent, if you have an FSA ID and password because you attended college recently, or you have another student, another child who attended and you did the FAFSA with them, you must use that same FSA ID login and password because it's associated with your social security number. So think about it as your social security. You cannot create a new account since you've already connected those two, but you can do that now. So I would suggest doing it and then write down what your login information and password is so that you're ready October 1st to just hit the ground running. FAFSA.gov is the website that you want to go to. I know that most of the CPS schools will provide some assistance around that. They'll have FAFSA nights, FAFSA Saturdays, and so you'll have a lot of support in completing this application. This is just kind of give you a heads up about what sort of things you're going to need. So the documents, the most important thing is that you have your 2019 taxes completed. I know that the date was extended this year because of COVID, and I think that date is July 15th. Yes, July 15th. So if you haven't completed them, as long as you have by October 1st, you'll be able to use the various IRS tools to connect the application with the IRS to upload that tax information. You'll also need to have on hand your 2019 W-2s. And then asset information is something like if you own a business, the value of the business. If you have investments outside of retirement, that is considered an asset. I'm going to skip around a little bit just because I don't have a lot of time, and I want to be able to talk a little bit about things that you can do to check what your eligibility is. So there are special populations. You know, the FAFSA makes a lot of generalizations about traditional families and what traditional families look like. I found that that is not true for a lot of people. If you feel you fall outside of the application, there's things that they're not asking you about, you might be considered for something called a professional judgment. And that'll be gone over in the fall when we go a little bit more in depth about the FAFSA. But this is all just to say that not everything is going to apply to you. There might be a chance for you to explain things that are going on in your household that would affect your eligibility. So this isn't always the final say. Okay, so the Gates Scholarship is looking to see if you are eligible for the federal Pell Grant. And the federal Pell Grant is determined by what your expected family contribution is, or your EFC. That is what the FAFSA calculates. Only the FAFSA can do this, so you must complete it. They're gonna look at all the information that you provide in the FAFSA and kind of spit out this number. And I'm gonna show you a table to show you the eligibility in a little bit. So that's kind of what you're looking at. You know, the components of financial aid is money coming from the federal government, the state, the institution itself, and then outside scholarships. But what Gates is really concentrating on is that federal Pell Grant. Right now, the federal Pell Grant amount for 2021 is $6,345. That would be if your expected family contribution is 0. So it's an inverse relationship. The higher your EFC is, the lower your Pell eligibility is. And at a certain point, your EFC is too high to be Pell eligible. So actually, I'm going to go now to show you this. There's 2 tools, actually. I wish I could get rid of this. I'm going to just move this down. Okay, so the first is the FAFSA Forecaster. This is actually through the FAFSA website. So you can go in here, answer some questions, and it's going to give you an estimated expected family contribution. And it'll sort of explain how it gets to that number. So this is preemptive. This is something you can do before you actually complete the FAFSA, just to sort of see, are you on the border? Are you definitely eligible? Are you totally not eligible? There's also another website, and that is at bigfuture.collegeboard.org. They also have a very extensive EFC calculator, which I like a little bit more actually than the FAFSA Forecaster, but it's a good idea to just do both and see the accuracy and see if those EFCs are closer. This one from the College Board asks a few more questions, which are on the FAFSA. That's why I feel it's a little bit more accurate, but obviously the FAFSA Forecaster comes from the Department of Ed, and they're the ones that are going to have the final determination. So, and then I wanted to also just show the table. And I know that this is kind of overwhelming, but if you just start and look at the EFC, you'll see 0 EFC at the top left means that the annual amount the student is going to receive is $6,045 for the whole year. And then as you go and see the EFC going up, you see the Pell amount going down. And then once you get to around, under 6,000 of your EFC, you'll be Pell eligible. If your EFC is over 6,000, then you're not going to be eligible. So that is pretty much it for me. I just want to encourage you to do some of the things you can ahead of time, which is to do the FAFSA Forecaster or do an EFC calculator, complete the FSA ID process, get that login and password. So on October 1st, when the application opens, you already have that done. And then if you have any questions, LetterUp is a free service. There's no income requirement to have us answer any of your questions. So Michelle can provide my personal information, my email, or LetterUp's phone number. Also, if you need some tax assistance, we are here for you in that capacity too. So that's it for me.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Again, if you have any questions about that FAFSA forecast, we've provided the links for you in a previous email, but feel free to ask questions in the chat, and then you can also follow up with any questions that you may have via the College Scholarships at cps.edu account. Again, the goal of this session is to make sure that we're providing you with all of the information on the surface level that you need, but you will have to dig deeper as it relates to this particular scholarship. So now we're going to go ahead and talk about what the Gates Scholarship entails. So what is the Gates Scholarship? The Gates Scholarship is a highly selective full scholarship for exceptional Pell eligible minority high school seniors. I always describe it as the largest national scholarship for minority student leaders. All right, so that means that this scholarship is available to students all over the country. But what I will say is that Chicago Public Schools is always a leader in this particular scholarship. We are also the only school district that has these types of Gates information sessions prior to the school year beginning. So technically you're a rising senior right now. You're still slated in your junior slot. But by the time the scholarship opens up, it will be the summer. So we wanted to make sure that we prepare you in advance for what you need to know to be not just eligible for this scholarship, but to provide a competitive application. Ideally, what happens is students will see the kind of questionnaire that opens July 15th, and I'm going to go a little bit more into that. But they don't think much of it. They don't think that it's a big deal. It just looks like a little simple questionnaire. It doesn't seem like it's a big deal, but it is. So what we want to do is make sure that we prepare you in advance to know what this scholarship is, know what to look for, and start preparing yourself to make the best competitive application. So again, there is an ethnicity requirement on this scholarship. This scholarship is funded by the Gates Foundation, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, but it is administered through the Hispanic Scholarship Fund. So that means that this scholarship is for the students who fit into these ethnic minority groups. So you must identify as African American, American Indian or Alaskan Native, Asian and Pacific Islander American, or Hispanic American. If you do not identify with one of those minority groups, then you are not eligible to apply for this scholarship. Here's a good question. Well, what if I'm mixed? What if my dad is African American and my mom is Caucasian? Well, we as in CPS do not determine what your ethnicity is. You tell us. However, the Gates Foundation and the Hispanic Scholarship Fund, who administer this scholarship, are looking for whatever you identify as in your census, on your state ID, whatever you submit to Chicago Public Schools around your ethnicity. So again, it's really important that you make sure that you fit into the guidelines that are offered around the ethnicity component, because it is a requirement and it is not flexible. All right. So again, you must be one of the members of the ethnic groups that are listed. And also know that this scholarship is going to be awarded to 300 top student leaders across the country. 300. All right. So moving on. What is an ideal candidate for the Gates Scholarship? Well, you have to have a strong academic record, right? So right now, what we've done in Chicago Public Schools is we've identified the students who have a 3.3 weighted GPA and students who have met the ethnicity criteria, and we have reached out to you. That is over 5,000 students in Chicago Public Schools. So the Gates is looking for a strong academic record, specifically students who might be in the top 10% of their class, but again, we know that a lot of you meet the academic criteria for this scholarship. So what's going to be really important is these next things that we're going to outline. You have to have demonstrated leadership ability. So just being a part of an extracurricular activity or participation in the community service projects that you may be involved in is not demonstrating leadership ability. So usually what I do is in the group, when I'm in front of students, I say, raise your hand if you're in the National Honor Society. So there's a button that says raise your hand in the chat. So raise your hand if you are a part of the National Honor Society at your school. Or you can respond in the chat and say, I'm a part of the National Honor Society at my school. Go. This is an active part of the session. There we go. So I see one person already. 2, Rachel, I see you. Joyce, Christiana, Romel, Carolina, right? So Burley, Sandra, Satara, yes, I see you. I see you. Akira, Ashanti, Sandra, Whitney, Isabella, Katrina. So many of you are a part of the National Honor Society at your school. Now, I want you to also tell me if you are on the e-board of the National Honor Society at your school. So if you are the president, type in president in the chat box. If you are the vice president, type in vice president in the chat box. If you are the secretary or the treasurer, type that in the chat box. Co-president, all right. We've got one. Anybody else? Okay, Emika, I see that you were a part of it at your former school. Got it. Well, what happens is exactly what's happening in this chat. When I said put in if you were in the National Honor Society, and Lincoln Park hasn't picked theirs yet. Okay, so I see one treasurer, Ella is a treasurer. I think Whitney, who is represented on Sandra's PC, is represented here. So again, this is exactly what happens. Loads of students are in National Honor Society, but there's a very few that are leading the National Honor Society. Now, I'm not going to say that if you're not leading in the National Honor Society that you're not a good candidate for this scholarship, because you are. But that's the difference. That's the difference of what the Gates is looking for. They're not just looking for students who are in NHS, but they're looking for demonstrated leadership ability, right? So being a part of it is great, but leading the organization is better, right? So if you're in NHS and there are other opportunities or other organizations that you're a part of or other things that you're doing, think about the activities where you are leading, because that is what the Gates wants to know. What are you leading, right? They also want to know about exceptional personal success skills. So where have you shown emotional maturity? How have you continued to keep yourself motivated? What are some areas where you've been able to persevere? So if you can think just right off the top of your head, again, I want you to think through this and I want you to be active with us today. In the chat, tell me something that shows that you have exceptional personal success skills, right? Whatever that means. An area where, again, you've shown emotional maturity, where you've been overly motivated, where you've persevered through a hard thing. Although this is a virtual session and this is, a big session with a lot of people, this session is about us informally having a conversation with you about what's going to be required for you to be successful. And in order for us to do that, I need you to talk back to me, okay? So throw some things in the chat and I'll acknowledge those as we continue to move through the program. So that is what they're looking for as far as an ideal candidate. Moving on. What the Gates Scholarship covers. Now, when I say that this is one of the largest scholarships in the country, I mean it. I mean, they will cover everything. They will also cover some things that haven't been outlined here. So there's been a number of activities or a number of instances where a student needed a laptop, right? A laptop isn't covered in the scholarship or outlined here in the scholarship, but the Gates organization wants to make sure that students are prepared for for their next step. So if a laptop is something that you need, they want to make sure that you have that, right? So scholars will receive funding for the full cost of attendance that's not already covered by other gift aid and the expected family contribution as determined by the free application for federal student aid, which is why it's really important for you to go ahead and start going through that FAFSA forecaster, because that will help you get a better understanding of what your EFC is going to be and things of that nature. The scholarship is also going to be renewable for up to 5 years or until graduation, whichever comes first. So some majors require 5 years now, or some students just need an additional year. Some students might take a year off and come back. But whatever comes first, either graduation or 5 years, that is how much they'll cover for you with this scholarship. Eligibility. So you must be a high school senior. So by the time that you all are actually going through the application process for this, you will be a high school senior because this opens up in July. Again, just another reminder, that we want to make sure that you fit into the ethnicity groups. Multiracial students are eligible, but you do have to be multiracial, meaning one of the groups that are identified here. You also have to be Pell eligible. We just went over that. That's a really important component. You must be a U.S. citizen or a national. So again, in order to complete the FAFSA and in order to be eligible for this scholarship, you must be a U.S. citizen or permanent resident or national. Again, you must have that 3.3 weighted GPA. So that, again, we've already identified over 5,000 of you who meet that criteria. And then the student, you must plan to enroll in a full-time four-year institution. So again, we have a number of students who are saying, and I know that the climate looks a little different right now for us, especially with dealing with the pandemic. Some students are opting or considering going to a two-year institution versus a four-year institution now because of the finances. If you win the gates, you're going to a four-year institution because you are no longer concerned about the finances, okay? All right. So it's really important that you know, even though city colleges in Chicago specifically are a great opportunity for this scholarship, you must be planning on going to a four-year institution. So make sure that that is a part of your plan. So important dates. Now, I know that you're probably taking screenshots of this. You're probably pulling up your cell phones and trying to take a picture of this. Don't worry. We're going to give you all of this information. So once we get through all of the sessions, which the last session is going to be on Thursday, we're going to make sure that we share out all of this information with you because we want you to be equipped to work from home to make this happen. But here are some important dates. The student recruitment right now is happening, and I'll show you another screen in a few minutes about how you can make sure that you're on the list to getting recruited, in a sense. But the Gates qualifying questionnaire opens up July 15th. What we recognize in Chicago Public Schools is that we used to do these Gates sessions at the beginning of the school year, right? Even though initially, and really with the old Gates scholarship, we did it later on in the school year. But what we wanted to make sure that we catch was that students were completing their questionnaire before they got back to school and they weren't putting their best foot forward. So it's been really crucial for us to start doing these information sessions in June to make sure that we catch you before the July open date. So from July 15th until September 15th, the phase one of the Gates application is available to you. What does that mean? That means that the questionnaire that the DePaul team is going to go over later in this presentation is only going to be open for a very short amount of time. So it's really important that you get a good understanding of what you need to submit there. But that is the gatekeeper. If you don't have a strong Gates qualifying questionnaire, you will not make it to the next selection process. So it's really important that you put your best foot forward in this first component of the phase one process. The next step is the verification and selection. Again, that goes from September to December. Then the application opens and closes. And by that, we mean there is another component where you have to, once you're selected, to move into the next phase, they're going to be looking for some verification and some paperwork, right? So they'll be going through that component between September, December, and then they're making some selections from that information. The next window that you're going to be focused on is the January through February, all right? So one thing to recognize about this scholarship is that this scholarship application process literally goes through the entire school year. All right. So they will, once you've been selected for the next phase after the Gates qualifying questionnaire, you will then have to do essay questions. The essay questions will not the essay questions are another phase. So once you get through the phase of essay questions, then they will be making some additional selections of students. So going through the application is a very tedious process. And again, it happens all over the course of the school year. But again, each component, they're looking to weed out students. They're also going to be looking for information from the recommenders that you put in to the tool to say, hey, I want this person to give a letter of reference for me. So again, make sure that you're thinking now about somebody who you think or somebody who you think would be the best option to recommend you. Then once they go through that component of getting the final documents and looking through the essay questions that you've submitted, then there's going to be a group of finalists that are selected in February, and that group of finalists are then invited to interviews. Now, I've been very fortunate this school year for the class of 2020 to have the opportunity to read through the applications, the essay applications, as well as to interview students. And you'll actually hear from one of the students that I interviewed later on. But it's really important for you to know that this is a long process, but you must put your best foot forward, because in order for you to get invited to the next phase, you have to have already put in a great deal of work in the previous phase for the selection process. Then the scholars are selected in April, and then there's a summer institute that happens in June. Right now, that summer institute is planned to be virtual. But again, this process literally goes from July to April. It is a full school year effort, okay? So make sure that you start putting these calendars and thinking through these dates right now. Moving forward. So there's an informational video that's going to be available to you on the Gates website. Again, it is also embedded in this tool or in this spreadsheet. We're not going to play it today, but you'll have access to it. And once the Gates website turns over, which will be in a couple of weeks, you'll be able to access this video. And again, we'll send this to you just so you at home can go through and figure out what is the Gates really about. And they talk more so about the information I'm already sharing with you in this presentation. So the next thing that I want to make very, very clear, is that Chicago Public Schools, I work for Chicago Public Schools. And again, as I said, we're one of the only school districts that provides this type of information session prior to the school year ending and prior to the actual application opening. But we do not, this scholarship is not embedded on any of our websites outside of being promoted through our CPS scholarship website. So we just promote this scholarship and make sure that students have everything that they need to be successful in applying for this scholarship. In order for you to apply for this scholarship, you will have to visit the gatesscholarship.org. That is the website where you will be doing several things, where you'll be getting all of the information as it relates to actually applying on the website. Now, CPS is going to have a website that's going to give you more information. It's going to have all of the presentations and things that we covered today on that site, but you must get familiar with the gatesscholarship.org, because that is the true website for you to be applying for this scholarship. I'm going to show you one of the things that you can do right now to make sure that you get connected to the Gates Scholarship. On the Gates Scholarship website, which again is the gatesscholarship.org, there will be a red button that allows you to start your profile. That is what you want to complete literally right now, okay? That's about the only thing that you can do right now before the actual application opens is start your profile. What that does is that puts your information in the database for the Gates Scholarship. So as they begin to share information out to say, hey, our scholarship is opening, hey, come to our website, you will be in the database to get those emails directly from the Gates Scholarship. Now, Chicago Public Schools will continue to remind students and push out information. Your counselors and your post-secondary coaches will have this information and will be pushing it out to you. But in order for you to really engage with this application, you must visit the gatesscholarship.org. So please ensure that anything that says .cps.edu is from Chicago Public Schools, but the gatesscholarship.org website is the one where you will actually be applying for the scholarship, where you'll see the next phases for the scholarship, and if you are where you will complete your questionnaire for the scholarship. Everything that you need to do for the actual scholarship will be at the gatesscholarship.org site. Now, again, just digging a little deeper into what each phase consists of. Phase one is the qualifying questionnaire. Again, that opens July 15th. That closes September 15th. And one of the things that's important about that September 15th date is that you would have only been in school for about two weeks or so, maybe 3. So again, it's really important for you to get these dates on your calendar. You need to set up a Google Calendar reminder right now if you're eligible for the Gates Scholarship for July 15th so that you can get on top of the application as soon as it opens. We talked a little bit about the interviewer component. So what's, well, I would say what's very different than the scholarship of the past, which was the Gates Millennium Scholarship, is that they've added, they phased out the scholarship and that they've added a very integral interview component. And again, as I said, I've had the opportunity now to have interviewed students, and it is a very awesome experience. But at the same time, it's a very serious experience in the sense that the interview is going to carry a lot of weight. So we have a link here. We're not going to play this video during this session, but you'll have access to review this interview from Mr. Luis Narvaez, who again is a CPS employee, but he is a part of the HSF organization and he interviews for the scholarship. So we're going to go over a couple of things that he's highlighted in his interview. I do want you to recognize that the things that we are going to go over on these next couple of slides are not affiliated with the Gates Scholarship. These are simply things that we've recognized and want to make light of from the CPS side that we've learned just from participating in the interviews. So the hardest component for the student interview is really getting them to open up about their personal stories. And I can attest for this, sitting in front of students and asking them the questions that the Gates organization provides us is great, but we can't force the information out of you. So it's really important that if you're selected to go through the interview component and you think about these things, is that you focus on sharing background information regarding your culture and things of that nature. Why? Because you've already completed the Gates qualifying questionnaire, meaning you meet the criteria for having the background academically, you meet the criteria for having the background leadership-wise, but the interview gives you more of an opportunity to talk about the things that you've not already listed or to dig deeper into the things that you've listed but didn't have a chance to explicitly express. Because keep in mind, the interview component comes after the Gates qualifying questionnaire. It comes after the essays. So it's literally the cherry on top. So that's how you want to consider the interview component. Some things that students failed to share was their critical thinking skills, right? Talk about an experience where you had to think quick on your feet, or an experience that that may not be, again, something that you've outlined in any of the essays or things you've prepared in advance. So always be mindful of putting your best foot forward. Another key component is their willingness to work with others. So the Gates organization and the Gates Scholarship is not just about giving one kid a good scholarship. It's about giving a group of kids who will then ultimately come together to almost be like a think tank for our future. It's really important for you to talk about teamwork. So yeah, we know that there's some instances where you've had to, work hard on your own, but talk about some instances that are also considering the team effort. And again, we're going to provide this to you so you'll be able to walk back through all of this information. What can students expect? Well, the interview will be quick, no less than 30 minutes. In the interviews that I had, all of them were in the same vein, between 30 minutes to an hour. I think I tried to give all students an hour just to not rush them through the process, but they were pretty quick. The students picked the environment, and that was something that I would say is really important. So you'll hear from one of the students who I actually interviewed, but a couple of students picked a location that they had never been to, but because it was a Starbucks, they thought that it was a good option, right? Well, going to a Starbucks at, 3 or 4 o'clock in the evening on the campus of UIC is like scrapping for a seat. So it was really hard to get a seat initially. Had I not been there an hour in advance, we wouldn't have had a seat to be able to have the interview. So again, be mindful of the environment. And these are just things that we want to make sure that you're thinking of now, because again, these are things that will help equip you as you go through the process. For this round, it is very true that students will receive an email from the organization. So email is just going to be incredibly important moving forward. You know, we're now operating on the virtual aspect of everything, so the only way that we can really give you information is through email or maybe a phone call or two. So just be mindful of really checking your email through this process. I'm not going to belabor some of these additional points because we do want you to hear from Joshua, who is a current CPS Gates winner for the class of 2020. So he's going to share a few things that are also covered in this interview component as well. So that is the end of kind of the overview of the Gates. The next component that we're going to go to right now is with the DePaul Center for Access and Attainment. Samantha Westlake, or obviously if you have questions, sorry about that. If you have questions, do throw them in the chat. We're going to be addressing questions at the end of the session. But Samantha is going to go through the resources that we have in place to make sure that you're putting your best foot forward in the questionnaire. She's also going to give you some screenshots of the questionnaire. So right now, you don't even have access to see this information. So we're really giving you a heads up. So Samantha, there you go.
Thanks, Michelle. So as Michelle said, my name is Samantha Westlake. I am a peer guide at DePaul University's Office of Access and Attainment. And one of the main resources that we provide to CPS students is our virtual essay editing program. We also have a program that runs during the summer called College Connect. Some of you may have participated in that. But what we're here to talk about today is our essay editing. And we're going to focus on the Gates Scholarship and the questionnaire, but also during the school year, you can use that service for just class assignments, other scholarship applications. But today we're going to be talking about what we can do to help with your Gates application and also the first phase of the application, which is the questionnaire. So as Michelle mentioned during the overview, the questionnaire really is the first step into getting through the Gates process. So although it might kind of seem easy and you're just clicking boxes, you really do want to take time and attention to focus on it, because if you don't pass that first round, that's kind of it, it's over. So you want to make sure that you really put your best foot forward and make sure that you put all your time and attention into giving the best representation of yourself during this questionnaire. All right. So how can we help you? Our virtual essay editing, as I mentioned, if you do are successful and get to the second round of the Gates application process, we will be more than happy to edit your essay questions for that. So we have a really easy Google form that you can fill out, and as I mentioned, you can use it for the Gates, but if you're applying to other scholarships, if you just need like an English class assignment, we can help you with that too. And so when you're submitting this to us, we'll provide you with links of where you can send it, but we just need your name, your school, the prompt of your essay, just so we can know if you're answering the prompt correctly, if you need to kind of give more detail about that. And then a shareable link, that's a really important thing. That's usually what delays us most in getting your essay back to you, is just the sharing settings with Google. So we have a few screenshots here just to show you exactly what you need to do just to prevent any delays in us getting back to you. So when you have your Google Doc, you'll see in the top right corner, you have a button that says share. And then once you open that up, there'll be a little option to get a shareable link. You don't want to be using it as you normally collaborate by like typing in an email. You just want to give us that link. And you want to make sure that the link settings say that anyone with it can edit. Sometimes we'll open up an essay and it'll be like view only, or we won't be able to see it at all. And that just is a delay in us getting it back to you. So you just want to make sure that that link setting allows us to edit it, and you get that shareable link and you post it in the Google form when you submit your essay to us. And as you've always been told by your high school teachers, you want to give yourself enough time in writing your essay that you have enough time to get feedback. I know procrastination, I do it myself, but waiting to the last minute means you won't have enough time for us to get it back to you. And other resources, if you have friends or family who are going to be reading it as well, you want to be respectful of their time to make sure that you give them enough time that once you get their feedback, they can, or you can take that feedback and edit your essay from there as well. And so our email is depaulpeerguide@gmail.com, and you can reach out to us with any questions. As we said, Michelle will provide you all our links and all our contact information, but if you have any general questions, you can also email us there as well. And so we try and get feedback to you within 1 business day, but again, if the sharing settings on your link aren't quite what they need to be, that can cause delays. Also, sometimes we just get influxes of essays all at once, which can add a day or 2 on, but we usually try and be pretty prompt about 1 or 2 business days to get it back to you. And Google's really great. It's all interconnected. As soon as we start making comments on your essay, Google will send you emails saying your peer guide has put feedback on your essay, so you'll know as soon as we provide our feedback to you. So what can we help with? We're not going to write your essay for you, that's on you, but we are happy to help with anything from kind of generating ideas in the very early stages to you think you have it polished and you just want to make sure that all your spelling and grammar is correct before you send it off. So anywhere within that spectrum, we are happy to provide assistance. Sometimes you have a really great idea, but you just don't know how to structure it and how to put all your points in order. We can help with that as well. So really anywhere you are on the spectrum, as long as you have kind of something written down, we can help you kind of hone it from there. All right. Yeah, so what we don't do, we won't write your essay for you. And as much as we try and get it polished and get it the best application, we can't guarantee that you will actually receive any scholarships because of it. We don't make that guarantee, but we will definitely help you get it in a good place. So what we can do for your GATES application. Like Michelle said, in phase 1 of the GATES application, you have the My Involvement section. And like I said, this questionnaire might seem a little benign, a little easy, but you want to make sure you really are putting all of your activities and all of your involvement in school in this. My personal recommendation when I looked at it is, like, even before this application opens, I'd say sit down with a parent, with a friend, and just write down everything you've done in high school. Write down all the extracurriculars you were involved in, all the sports, all the clubs, all the volunteering that you've done, because you don't want to be overwhelmed when you actually go into the application and forget something. You want to make sure that you give everything that you've been involved in. So I'd say write it down and then make sure that when you're actually doing it, that you've covered everything that you've written down beforehand. All right, so what does it look like? Well, here are some screenshots of what the survey looks like. It covers a very broad range of things. It covers sports and clubs and student government, and it also covers volunteering, science fairs. So you really have a wide variety of things that you can put into it. And we'll say it again, but you don't want to be modest about this. I know we all kind of want to be humble about our achievements sometimes, but this is not the place to do that. This is the place where you want to make sure that you cover everything that you've done, because you want to stand out from the other thousands of applications that are being sent in, since this is what will determine if you move on to the next phase. And so this goes really into detail, and so you just want to make sure that you take your time. It said before, but this can take anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour, and so it goes into enough detail that it'll differentiate from team sports versus individual sports, drama clubs versus band and orchestra. So anything that you've been involved in, you definitely don't want to lie about anything, because that will come back to you if you are dishonest. But you want to make sure that anything you may have ever been involved in, you get covered to really make yourself a strong candidate. And so also non-athletic extracurriculars, like I said, make that list so that if you feel that you haven't been given the option of their kind of pre-made ones, that you can add in these other things that you've been doing, just to give yourself the best well-rounded view and the best representation of who you are on this questionnaire. And so it starts with kind of a general overview of your participation, your involvement, and then it'll get further into detail as you go through the questionnaire. And so then after you cover your sports and your clubs and your activities, it'll also ask about jobs and internships. And I understand that some of you may have had a job in high school, some of you may not. And don't worry if you haven't. We just want the best representation of who you are. So again, you don't have to lie because you think that'll make your application stronger. You want to be as honest and truthful about who you are as possible, even if there are some sections that you might not have a lot to fill out. And so then we get into academic and college prep and leadership. So this is a very comprehensive view of who you are. There are tons of options for summer programs that you may have participated in, other extracurricular development activities. And so really make sure you're going through this and reading every single one. I mean, you probably know what you are involved in, but you want to make sure that if you didn't even realize something and, oh yeah, that's right, I did do that, that you get that covered, because everything you can add will just make your application stronger. And so then we get into honors and recognition. These are very specific and they're different from the survey. If you don't have anything that you've done that correlates with this, don't just skip it. You want to make sure that you actually do select none of the above. But again, go through every single one, read every single one, just to make sure that there's something you're not missing. And so again, you can contact us with any questions. We can help once you get to the phase 2 of the Gates Scholarship. If you do end up getting to the essay portion of it, we are happy to edit that, and our virtual essay editing is free for all CPS students. We don't have a limit on how many essays you can send to us, and if you have one that you just keep working on and keep needing feedback, we will edit the same essay for you 10, 15 times. It doesn't matter, we're happy to do it, and we just want to make sure that you put your best foot forward in your Gates application.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Ms. Westlake. Again, this is all about us working together to make sure that we're providing you with everything that you need to be successful to effectively apply for this scholarship. So now we have a video that we want you to hear from a 2020 Gates Scholar. This is Joshua Bobbitt. He's a Whitney Young graduate. He'll be attending Northwestern. This video is about 11 minutes. So if you have questions as he goes through this video, please drop the questions in the chat. But it's a great 11-minute interview where he's going to be sharing a lot of great information. So I really want to make sure that you all listen closely, take notes here. And if you have questions, throw them in the chat. Here's Joshua. Oh, sorry, 1 second. We're going to have to go back. There we go. So can you roll them back?
Graduate of Whitney High School, and I will be attending Northwestern University in Evanston in the fall. At Northwestern, I plan on double majoring in mathematics and Chinese language and culture, and minoring in African American studies. A little bit about myself: these last 4 years at Whitney Young, my main goal has been to be as active as possible. I've held leadership positions in clubs like African American Culture Club, Natural Hair Club. I was in the exec board for Student Council for a few years, and just try to be as active as possible in all the different clubs, school events that were happening throughout the 4 years. Outside of school, I just went to China last summer with the CPS group, study abroad, and the summer before that, I did a language program studying Mandarin at University of Chicago through StarTalk. I'm also a part of the National Society of Black Engineers. I am the president of the NSBE Junior Chapter at Chicago State University, where we compete in 1080 Student Racing Challenge and VEX Robotics. So Gates. How did I learn about Gates? I received an email just like all of you, basically informing me about the info session. I had known that Gates was a full ride scholarship before even getting to high school. It was one of the main things I really wanted to apply to my senior year. But really those emails told me about the registration for the info session, got to the info session, found out everything I needed to know about the Pell Grant and everything. Pell Grant eligible, found that out at the info session, and then went on to find out about what Gates is, right? What you all are doing today. So around what time did I submit my application? Because I was studying abroad last summer, as soon as I got home, my main focus was to submit Gates, right? So I submitted the day of or around that time, if I remember correctly. But that does not mean that I started the day of. I started right when I got back, and I continued to work on it from when I got back until the due date. I felt like I had perfectly enough amount of time to manage and get everything I needed to get in, fill out all the questionnaires, everything. It was good. The hardest part about applying for the scholarship, personally, I would say, was the time. Each stage in the scholarship application process would be like months apart from each other. And just waiting to hear back from Gates was very stressful for me. Because I would like be walking down the hallway at school, like, oh my God, did Gates send me an email? I have to check my spam folder, check the portal. No, I have to wait a couple more weeks to see if I got into the next stage. But it wasn't terribly stressful because when they did send the emails, they sent enough information about what I need to do next, where I am in the process, and everything about that. So at my interview, I had my interview with the lovely Miss Michelle Howard. We met at Starbucks near the school, and I wore, of course, business casual. I feel like I look very professional, but I also wanted to express myself through my outfit. Because a lot of things that I focus on are STEM-based, so I tried to wear, of course, shirt and tie, sweater, because it was cold that day, and pants, but like it was a very nice sweater. Thrifted everything, you know, try to show who I am. That's one of the things that was very important to me, trying to show all the sides of me. And that's one of the things I really got to do during the interview. Talk about my interest in STEM, my interest in Chinese language and culture, my interest in Black student groups and everything like that, African American history, but then also talk about my interest in music, my interest in style, my interest in thrifting, my interest in everything I've been doing like my 18 years of life, right? The support I received from my parents was great, especially doing the financial aid and everything. Gates requires you to do your FAFSA. They have the date, I'm not sure when it was, but got that in, got my CSS profile. That was all basically my mom. With my counselors, they really just made sure that I knew as much information to get to the info session. Once I got to the info session, I really only had to go back to my counselors to fill out surveys, but also just communicating with my counselor about this is where I am in the process. When I got accepted into the next stage of the application process, just talking to my counselor about that was very important as well. My initial thoughts when I first applied was, oh my God, there's gonna be all these essays. Oh my God, I don't find out until, when did I find out? I don't find out until like the end of my senior year if I'm a Gates Scholar. How am I gonna pick out which college I'm going to? And those are my initial thoughts. I was really stressed out about like, how am I gonna manage all this? How am I gonna write all this stuff? But once it came, it was very much more manageable than I previously had thought. It didn't all just rush in because the application process takes months and time. You know, you start out at the beginning of the school year, and then you turn in and do more surveys and questions throughout the school year. You're going through each process, right? Each step in the application, turning in your essays. The essays were not terribly hard. Really just talking about yourself, which I personally do not have a problem doing. Writing about myself, I personally don't have a problem doing. Talking about myself. If you do have problems writing about yourself, then you really have to take advantage of that time during the interview to really express who you are as a person, as a student, because what you write in those essays, they have a word limit. You can only write so much, right? So it's really important that you try to express who you are as much as possible in those essays, but always, you know, take your time, you know, take your time trying to figure out what you want to say, how you want to say it, and the best way to get you across to them, right? And yeah, that's exactly what kept me motivated, really taking my time, right? I had to go through each process, each step, and I just really look, this is what I have to do. This is when it's due. This is who I have to talk to. I have to get it done as soon as possible, but not stressing about it, right? Because I like to turn things in the day they're due, not really before. That's just me personally. So I turned in pretty much every step of the application. I turned it in the day of the due date. which a lot of people stress out about, but that's just not me. But I still had time. I still managed my time very well, I feel like, about getting in everything. So I selected the same people who wrote my college recommendations to write my GATES recommendations. Those two teachers, my math teacher for my sophomore and senior year, and my Chinese teacher, who I've had for all 4 years learning Mandarin at Whitney Young. I basically went to them at the end of my junior year, asking them to write my college letters of acceptances. And once I had gotten further along into the process with GATES, I just basically used that same letter to, or the same people to recommend me for GATES, right? And they know me the most out of all the staff at my school. I've had a close relationship with them, and those were the two main courses, the two main subjects that I was most passionate about, right? So mathematics, the teacher that I asked for my math, I actually like kind of interned for her my senior year. So me and her her and I had a very personal relationship. My Chinese teacher, of course, 4 years she's been my teacher, very personal relationship, knew me very well. And did I apply or win any other scholarships? I actually won a scholarship through the National Society of Black Engineers, the organization that I mentioned earlier. I actually won Male Student of the Year. I'm actually not sure how much that scholarship is. I was not allowed to go to the award ceremony because of coronavirus at the National Convention. But other scholarships, for the main part, I applied to a lot of scholarships, smaller scholarships. I didn't get too many, and especially the bigger scholarships. GATES was the only really big scholarship that I got into, was accepted for. But as long as you stay focused, other scholarships will continue to roll in. Academic Works continuously gave me more scholarships to apply to. I applied to them. Still waiting to hear back from a lot of scholarships as I go into summer. Still applying for more. Trying to get college trying to be debt-free, trying to be as easy as possible paying for college, right? Don't want to worry about that at all, right? And because applying GATES is important. GATES basically pays for everything, but while you're waiting to hear back from GATES, which is not necessarily guaranteed for everyone, of course, but while you're waiting to hear back from GATES to see if you got it, it's really important to stay motivated and apply for other scholarships. So if you don't get GATES, then you could fall back on all these other scholarships, you know? And those little $1,000 scholarships really do add up. They really do create big bang, a lot of money, you know? And a lot of those scholarships also go to your personal account, which is very, very helpful because GATES goes to the school, you know? You don't see that money. The money from GATES and a lot of these bigger scholarships, you don't see. The smaller scholarships are also very important. And where was I when I realized that I won? I think that I was home. And I didn't know what to do. I think, yeah, it was during quarantine. And I was like, oh my God, I'm a GATES scholar. And I'm so happy to be one. And yeah, thank you. Hope to see you all in the next year. Thank you.
All right. So I told you guys that was going to be a great overview of the scholarship and his experience with the scholarship. So I'm really glad that Joshua was able to submit that video for us. Again, we're going to make sure that you get this information. There's been so many great questions in the chat from are there limits on how many scholarships that you can apply for, to do I put in my middle school information. Another great thing about this session being recorded is that you will be able to go back and read through the chat. So again, we want to make sure that we answer all of your questions. You can apply for as many scholarships as you can muster up enough strength to apply for. We're going to open this up for questions at this point. We also want to encourage you to complete the feedback survey. I put the feedback survey link in the chat. So you can definitely go into the chat, and then you'll also get an email later on to complete the survey. But some of the questions that were in the chat, and then again, if you have new questions that you want to get answered, feel free to jump in right now and throw those in the chat. So one of the things that Joshua talked about scholarships and having so many opportunities to scholarships was the Academic Works tool. That is the CPS tool that we use to make sure that students have access to scholarships. So you can sign up to get alerts from the Academic Works tool and through the College Scholarships account, which is the account that I own as the CPS Scholarship Manager. You'll be able to do that by emailing us at collegescholarships@cps.edu. However, keep in mind, right now we're closing out the year, so we'll be sending out a new link mid-July to get information for students who are interested in getting signed up for the scholarships moving forward. The Academic Works is going to be the tool that helps students get access to scholarship information that you should be eligible for throughout the school year, the upcoming school year. So if in fact you find out, hey, I have the academic criteria, but I went through the FAFSA forecaster and I'm not eligible for the Gates Scholarship because I'm not Pell Grant eligible, that is okay. My entire job is around making sure that we have scholarship opportunities available for CPS students. So if you're not eligible for the Gates, it's not the end of the world. We'll have far more opportunities for you as the school year begins. But again, it's really important for you to start understanding how to take advantage of these scholarships and these opportunities right now. So another question came up about should students be putting in information about their middle school activities. Not only do you want to make sure that you're putting everything that you can down, but you really want to make sure that the information is relevant. So one of the parents asked, you know, my daughter was a regional science fair winner in 6th grade, which is great. But if your daughter or the student is not interested in doing a STEM-related career, which is science, technology, engineering, and math, then you might want to not add that regional win, but add something that's more relevant to what the student is doing right now. What the Gates questionnaire ultimately is trying to do is to build a story of your leadership and your activities, right? So it's really important that you don't just throw everything in, but that you're strategic around what you put in. So we do want you to put everything that's relevant, but make sure that it's relevant. Some students said, hey, I was in the academic center for my school, which is fantastic. One of the things that might become relevant about you being a part of the academic center at your school is that you might be able to graduate a year early. So that is something that would be able to be identifiable in an essay, but not something that would be identifiable in the current questionnaire option that you have right now as the only option for completing the first phase of the application. So keep in mind, if you're invited to the next phase, you'll have room to answer questions. But initially, you want to put first the most relevant information that's going to make them say, wow, this student is exceptional, not just because they have good grades, but because they have great community service. And they've been leading community service in their school or in their church for the last 3 to 5 years. That was something that was very standout about another student that I had an opportunity to interview. I'm not sure if he won the Gates or not, but one of the things that was incredible about his background was that he was able to talk about the different things that he's been doing in his church since he was a little kid up until now. So he had an incredible background with service, which was awesome. What category is dual enrollment in? Great question. The category for dual enrollment is probably honors. Because again, everybody is not eligible to be a part of the dual enrollment program. But again, dual enrollment is something that you want to make sure that you drop down into that questionnaire because that's huge. Dual enrollment, dual credit. Yep, that's exactly what we're talking about, Miriam. Also, a few questions that I saw. Is it okay to start the profile today? Absolutely. So I'm going to drop in the link, and again, it's up on your screen, but it's www.thegatesscholarship.org. This is, again, where you will begin to establish your profile because, again, putting your information in the profile allows you to then be in the database for the Gates Scholarship. So that's a great way to make sure that you're getting engaged right now. More questions. I see that there's a hand raised. We are going to, this is Ella Morgan Kitch. This is going to be taboo for us because we usually don't take live questions, but we're going to go ahead and take your live question. So if you have a live question you want to ask on the air, because now I'm a radio personality, no, go ahead and ask. So Miss Ella Morgan-Kitch, I think we have given you the ability to be unmuted.
You're also an officer.
There we go. I can hear you now. Ella? Okay, I'm not sure what happened. Sorry about that. Let's try this again. I'm asking to unmute you. There we go. We hear you. Go ahead with your question, Ms. Morgan-Kitch.
I don't know if this was answered already, but is there so I'm in NHS and I was also in NHS in middle school, so do you count that for the long span?
Absolutely. I would say that that's a great way to build that you've been a part of the National Honor Society for a long period of time versus just being in a couple of years, which is nothing wrong with being in for a couple of years. But that is something that shows that you've built this kind of growth leadership over time because you've been a part of it since middle school. So yes, I think that would be a great route to go.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome. Great question. Thanks for that. If you have a question, and you are on the line, if you raise your hand, I'll be able to address you. Otherwise, you can put the question in the chat. There's still about 97 folks in this group, so we want to make sure that we're respectful of the time and the space. This will be recorded and sent to everyone. Absolutely. So we are currently recording this session. We have 2 more sessions this week. So we have a session on tomorrow that is a Spanish-speaking session for Spanish-speaking families, and then we have another session on Thursday in the evening. Our goal is to then compile all the information that we have here, all of the recordings, and to send those to you via email by early next week. Okay, so you should be able to access this information via email. It'll be coming from our college scholarships at cps.edu account, which is the account where you got your confirmation email from. We're absolutely making sure that you get everything that you need to be able to review this information at home with your parents and your families so that you can put forth the best effort to get your application done well and effectively come July 15th. Great question, Vicki. Thank you for that. We also want to make sure that you give us feedback. If you have any feedback about this survey, we'll be sending that out to you via email as well. But if you have access to the chat right now, you can go in and complete the feedback survey. But again, it's really important that we make sure that you're prepared to apply effectively for the largest scholarship for national minority student leaders. If this was helpful for you, we want to know that. We want to know if you had a better understanding of how to move forward in the application and interview process. Again, we just want to make sure that we're preparing you and equipping you with the best resources to be successful. So Ladder Up, which is an organization that can help you with FAFSA completion in addition to your school counselor or your post-secondary coach. The DePaul Center for Access and Attainment, which has peer guide mentors who can assist you with editing your essays. I put the link in the chat for accessing their website. But again, all of the links for the information that we're sharing is going to be embedded into this PowerPoint presentation, and we'll be sharing that with you. I'm currently, oh, sorry, this is a private message. Oh, so this is a private message. Zaria, I'm about to blast your business. So Zaria George wrote and said, I'm currently a part of the Chicago Police and Firefighter Training Academy. Would it count towards extracurricular community service or academics? First of all, congratulations. That's a phenomenal program. It would count as extracurricular. Okay, and these are great questions. Where do I or how do I categorize which activities that I'm a part of? The goal is to make sure that you're completely filling out that questionnaire. So if you have organizations that you're a part of, let's say, for instance, Zaria, you had, far more extracurricular activities and not a lot of community service. You would then be able to kind of toss over that CPFD program to be the community service, because ultimately you all do service projects as well, a part of that organization. So again, being a part of that program. So again, it really is about you being able to manipulate the things that you're a part of to be able to answer them most effectively. For the future, you all are sending me private messages, which are great, but I'm going to blast them unless you say something very personal, which you have not so far. For the future, should letter of recommendations come from teachers, or can they come from other programs you have participated in? That question is from Simone Holland. Simone, that's an excellent question. I would say, as Joshua presented in his video, he used a teacher that had known him for 4 years, right, which is really important. But at the same time, you may have somebody who's known you for 6 years because you've been a part of that particular program. So it's really about you making sure that you pick people who will be able to best represent you, okay? So yes, you can use teachers. Yes, you can use counselors. Back in the day when I was in a school for the Gates Millennium Scholarship, I was a recommender for students, and I had only known the student for about 2 years. Both of the students who I worked with, who I recommended rather, were winners. Okay, so it's about picking the person who's going to put the best foot forward for you. How do we know if we qualify for the Pell Grant? So great, there's a FAFSA forecaster. So in the invitation email that you got, as well as in the follow-up email, you definitely have information that gives you access to the FAFSA forecaster. So again, we will share those links with you. We'll share this presentation with you, but make sure you go back over that initial email. All of those links are in the initial email for you. So I hope that you can go back and access that information. If not, know that we'll be able to provide you with that in a follow-up email. Would it be worth mentioning being a part of Chicago Scholars? Absolutely, Giovanna. Chicago Scholars is one of the premier organizations, not just in this city, but nationally. So yes, definitely mention being a part of Chicago Scholars, because that's a great organization to be a part of, and especially for students in our city. But make sure that you put how long that you've been a part of Chicago Scholars and some of the experiences that you've had there. Can we still use the DePaul's essay writing support group if we're applying for other scholarships? Absolutely. Samantha, did you want to jump in and give some more feedback around that?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously today we're talking about the Gates, but we did a presentation with Michelle about just general scholarships. So any essay that you're submitting, whether it's for a scholarship other than the Gates, or even, like I said, if it's like an English class assignment or another school assignment that you just are looking for some other feedback on, we are happy to read anything.
And the great thing about having partnership organizations is that we work together to make sure that we're helping students. So again, DePaul, you don't have to go to DePaul or have the desire to go to DePaul, even though DePaul is a great university. Go Blue Devils. But you don't have to go to DePaul or be interested in attending DePaul to take advantage of that support. Please make sure that you do. The number one reason that students don't apply for scholarships is not because they're not eligible, not because they're not smart, but it's because they don't want to write the essays. Competitive essays win the money. So our partnership with DePaul is very important because it gives you access to writing, putting your best foot forward in writing and getting someone to assist you in that process. I am putting the link to the FAFSA forecaster in the chat. If the FAFSA forecaster says you're not eligible, but you will be refiling, okay, so you definitely want to make sure that you are Pell Grant eligible. You must be Pell Grant eligible to apply for this scholarship. I do not want families going through this extensive process with the Gates if you're not Pell Grant eligible. If you're filing an appeal, that's one thing, but again, generally making sure that you're Pell Grant eligible based on the FAFSA forecaster is what's going to give you the most accurate review of where you stand financially. Everybody is not going to be eligible for this scholarship, unfortunately, but do understand that we'll have more opportunities for students once the school year begins. The reason that we focus on this scholarship right now at this part of the year is because this scholarship opens over the summer and is due 2 weeks after students come back to school. So we don't have a large window to be able to support students through this process, which is why we try to start this now. The essay writing support, I put in a link for that earlier, but again, we will make sure that you have access to that information. We also, I'll put it in the chat again, but again, we're going to make sure that we have all of this information in the email for you, and we want to make sure that you take advantage of it moving forward. Great question. We have about 15 more minutes in this chat, so I'm happy to respond to any additional questions that you may have. We definitely want you to take time to fill out the feedback survey. Any of our presenters, if you have anything that you want to share, raise your hand, let me know. We'll let you jump in. But really, this is about us making sure that we're supporting you. I'm so grateful that Joshua was able to provide his video because, again, it's great to hear it from us. It's great to read it from us, but when you hear it from an actual winner, it helps you understand how competitive the scholarship is, but how realistic it is for you to win it. Because again, Joshua was just like one of you. Although Joshua was sitting in one of our sessions at a school when we had these sessions last year, he's just like you in the sense that he participated, he got the email that invited him to come to these sessions. He participated in the session. He started preparing and planning for what he wanted to submit. And then he absolutely put his best foot forward through the entire process. I didn't read his essays, but again, I was able to interview him, and he was striking in his interview. When I say that that young man came in and did not look like science, he looked like he had on vibrant colors. He was very well put together. It wasn't until he started sharing with me that, he just, and no diss to the science kids, we love you guys, but you guys are not always the most compatible with being fun. And you aren't always into bright colors. You're into things that are mostly aligned with doing the work. So Joshua was able to really put forth some effort into showing his personality in his interview and in his attire. The Gates, again, is not about picking a whole bunch of students who are the same. It's about picking students who will stand out. So it's really, really important that you try to stand out, even in your questionnaire with some of the things that you submit there, right? So don't just box yourself into thinking about, oh, what are some of the activities that I do at school? Think about some of the activities that you might do at church, right? If you go to church and you're part of the youth department, or you direct the choir, or you read the church announcements, or anything of that sort. If you're a part of something that's related to other religious organizations or affiliations, think about that. Think about the jobs that you may have had that have made you equipped to be a student leader. There's so many different things that can be associated with your growth in your leadership, and that's what we want you to put into the questionnaire. How do you fill out the questionnaire? So you fill out, this is a question that I just received. The questionnaire is available on the Gates website, but again, you have to keep in mind that the questionnaire does not open until July 15th. So you want to visit the Gates website and put your information in for the profile, to create a profile now. And as the scholarship opens up and as they begin to share more information about the scholarship, you will be enlisted in their database to get the information. So I'm going to drop the website link again for you, but we will also be sharing all of this information with you so that you can ensure that you have everything that you need, again, to be successful. So here's the Gates website link. The application, again, doesn't open, the questionnaire doesn't open again until July 15th, but you can visit the website right now and complete your student profile on the gatescholarship.org website, which will then allow you to be in the database to begin to get correspondence directly from them. Any more questions? If you're on the line and you have a question, raise your hand and we'll give you an opportunity to say your question live. If you have any questions, yes, so the question has come up again. Does DePaul writing support also help with college essays? Absolutely. They help with college essays. They help with college or scholarship essays. They even help with resume writing, right? So if you need help with that, please make sure that you reach out to the DePaul team. For the FAFSA, do we have to make a FAFSA ID, or do I and my parents have to make it? Yes, Taha, you and your parents have to make the FAFSA ID. Carly, did you want to share any insight or share any information to answer that question around the FAFSA?
Yeah, so only one parent needs to have the FSA ID. And I just want to remind everyone again, if you as a parent have already created one, either for yourself or for another child, you have to use that one. So there is a recovery process, but you cannot create a new FSA ID and password once there's one already associated with your social security number.
And Carly, what's the best way to get in touch with you or the Ladder Up organization to answer any follow-up questions? We'll also have your counselors and your school counselors and post-secondary coaches available as well. But Carly, if you can give us would you want to give us a website or an email?
Sure, I will put my email address in the chat.
Perfect. So again, this is about making sure that you have the resources that are necessary to help you get through this process. And it is indeed a very intense process. But the great thing is the GATES is something, the preparation for the GATES is really going to prepare you for your senior year and all the other opportunities that you want to make sure that you begin to apply for if you're eligible. So we have about 10 more minutes. I've been studying 2 languages, but I've been studying one by myself. Will I still be able to talk about it? So that was a message from Scott. First of all, Scott, kudos to you for learning 2 languages and studying 2 languages. I would absolutely list that one of them I've studied on my own because that shows incredible drive, determination, and motivation, right? So learning it from someone else is awesome, but learning it on your own and then becoming proficient in it is even better. So make sure that you do provide that information. Michelle, which is me, can we have your email address? You have it. My email, my direct email is collegescholarships@cps.edu. So again, this is the email account that is owned by me and my assistant, Mr. Jesse, also works within that account, but we work together to make sure that we're responsive to every single email that comes through that account. It's intended for students and parents and families to have that email account because, again, we're about making sure that we're providing you with everything that you need, not just for the GATES, but for scholarships in general and as you prepare to go into your senior year. The other thing about this email address is that there's an auto response set up. So we have resources that are available right now for students and parents, but the idea is that we'll be turning over our resources mid-July to prepare for the new school year. So you can sign up for alerts right now. We don't have a lot of scholarship opportunities that are available for current juniors right now. But we will have loads of scholarships that are available for you once you become a senior over the summer. And so we'll begin to share that information out. So you'll be able to get access to the college scholarships account and all of the scholarship opportunities that we have available. We also do a big scholarship information session every year. I'm not sure what that's going to look like this year, but I'm sure we're going to figure out a way to make sure that we're providing scholarships like kind of the college fair for scholarships for students. That's generally taking place in November, but we'll have more information about how we're going to ultimately either make that virtual or however that's going to work for the new school year. But it's very similar to what we do here, but it's just with several other scholarships. We include the Ladder Up organization in that session as well. We include the DePaul writing support in that session as well. So again, it's really about making sure that we work with our partners and work with our schools to make sure that we're giving students everything that they need to be successful in the scholarship acquisition process. Okay. Any more questions? Any more questions? We want to make sure that you are giving us the feedback. We want to make sure that you are getting your questions, getting responses to your questions. If this was helpful for you, we really want to know. And every year there are students who say that they've attended this session and they've gotten what they needed to be successful in the process of applying for the GATES. So again, it's really important. It's really important for us to be able to give you what you need and make sure that you can follow up on that information so that you can be successful. Any more questions? Any more questions? Is July 15th, is there a deadline for applying for the GATES? Absolutely. So the questionnaire opens July 15th. The questionnaire must be submitted September 15th. And something that's very important for you to recognize about that submission date is that we are on Central Standard Time in Chicago. The GATES operates around Pacific Standard Time. So there is a time lapse in when the application will be due. But September 15th is the deadline. And you can find that information on the Gates website. We'll also be promoting that information within this presentation. But yes, it opens July 15th. It closes September 15th. For the FAFSA, do we provide 2018 or 2019 tax return as its prior year, I believe. So I'm going to go ahead and let Carly, who's our FAFSA expert.
Yes, you'll be the 2019 taxes for the 2021-2022 application, which is the one you'll be doing for fall.
Great, thank you for that, Carly. Another question, is it first come, first serve for the Gates scholarships? No, it's not. It is students who meet the eligibility criteria and who submit the information on time. So there's a process that the HSF, the Hispanic Scholarship Fund, goes through to review the questionnaires, but no, it's not first come, first serve. It's based on eligibility, meaning that you have to fit into the ethnicity groups that are outlined to apply for the scholarship. You have to have the academic background. You also have to have the financial eligibility. And then from there, whatever you complete in submitting your questionnaire is how they score you. Do we have to fill out the FAFSA every year? Yes, yes, you do. Carly, I'll let you give some insight on that.
Yes, and a good thing to note is that if you're eligible for the state MAP grant, which is another thing that they'll see, check your eligibility against the FAFSA, they have started a new renewal date. So if you're eligible for it freshman year, you need to have your FAFSA done as close to October 1st as possible your sophomore year, and the cutoff deadline for that is December 1st. So just in general, you want to be renewing your FAFSA every year as close to October 1st, so not to miss out on some of this money.
Awesome, thank you for that. So we have about 5 minutes. If there are any more questions, please put them in the chat or raise your hand. We really do hope that this was helpful for you. We want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to give us feedback. It's always great hosting CPS students and families because I work for you and then our partners work with me to serve you. So it's very important that, again, you take advantage of these opportunities. We're so glad that you all were able to participate with us. Do understand that we will be sending you the playback recording of this entire session, as well as all of the material that was presented and shared during this session. So you will get the PowerPoint presentations, you will get access to the emails for the presenters. You'll get all the links that are necessary for you to connect. So make sure that you're checking your email early next week. We have 2 more sessions. We want to get through all of our sessions and then send everything out together. For an appeal, are we communicating with FAFSA or the individual university? Great question, Leslie. I do believe that you'll be appealing to the actual university. I'll let Carly go ahead and jump in on that.
Yes, for every single appeal, you have to go through that process with the university. It's the same thing with verification. There isn't like a universal form, so each individual university.
Great question. All right. Well, if there are no more questions, no more concerns. I hope this was great for you. If it was great, good, wonderful, please let us know by filling out the feedback survey. If you don't have an opportunity to fill that out today, we will be providing that for you in the follow-up information as well. But we want to make sure that everybody has what they need to get through this scholarship process. And we know that the next Gates winners, the class of 2021 Gates winners, have been on this session today. They'll also be participating in our upcoming sessions because remember, Joshua was in a session just like this, and he is now a Gates scholar. So congratulations in advance. We're so excited for you to be heading into your senior year. What a great way to end your senior year with preparing and equipping yourself to apply for the largest national scholarship for minority student leaders. We are looking forward to supporting you as you get through this process. Students should apply for their FAFSA when it opens, which is October 1st. If you have any additional questions about that, feel free to email me at collegescholarships@cps.edu. Again, we'll be following up with each of you who registered to attend and send you this information via email by early next week. Thank you so much for being a part, and we hope that you have a great duration of your week. Thank you all. Thank you so much. Have a great week. Don't hesitate to write us if you have questions or concerns. We look forward to supporting you through this process. Thank you for being here today, and have a great duration of your junior year as you head into being a senior. Congratulations. Keep up the great work. You guys are the rising stars. We're so excited to have you. Keep going.